Show me the money. That's what this episode's all about. With best-selling author of the book, The Wealth Creation Method, please welcome my friend and incredible entrepreneur, Phil Calandra, to the show. Phil, what's going on?
Jake, help me help you, brother. Good to be with you.
I love it. I love it. Now, look, I'm just going to let people know we got great banter. We love to chat. We love to chat offline, but today we get to bring this conversation online, and we're going to be talking about your book, The Wealth Creation Method, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Financial Freedom. And what I'm really excited about is you are doing something very unique in a very common place. And what I mean by that, and we'll talk about that, is everyone knows about taxes. Everyone knows about finances. Everyone knows about wealth. Everybody knows about profit, but not very many people know how it all gets intertwined. And that's what we're going to solve today. So Phil, I want to just start off here. What made you want to write the wealth creation method, and what's it all about?
Yeah, you nailed it when you opened it, Jake. There is not a shortage of information or advice givers on tax, on investing, on how to run your business, how to make more money. But there is a major gap that I saw, and that is entrepreneur centric advisory work that helps the successful entrepreneur. We work with clients that are already a million plus, heading towards 5, 8, 10, 20, and there isn't a coordinated financial system, what I call a financial ecosystem for the entrepreneur and founder. And it sounds crazy when you hear that, but that's the gap that we're filling.
Yeah, I love it. And just so everyone can understand the scope of your expertise, and we have your bio and everything listed down below, but can you just quickly give people an understanding of the lens you come from and then how it kind of tied into why this book is so important?
Yeah, it was recently explained to me that it took me 25 years of experience to write this book and about 18 months to really put it onto paper. And it reminds me of a story, if you'll permit me. It was during the great financial crisis, March of 2009. It was about 6 o'clock p.m. I was sitting at my desk, hands in my face, tears. I had 8 cents in my business checking account. The financial crisis was devastating for a lot of people, certainly for an entrepreneur that was a financial advisor. Payroll was due the next day, and I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. And I sat there and I told myself if I could figure this conundrum, this dilemma out, I was never going to experience this pain again. And fast forward now to 2026, where, the book has actually been published and we've got everything documented. That was a pivotal point for me as a failed entrepreneur, as a failed financial advisor. I should have known how to manage my business, right? How did I end up with 8 cents in my checking account, wondering whether I just blew myself up? And I won't bore everybody with the previous years of success prior to that. But that was really a critical point to me that demonstrates there are a lot of great business owners. There are a lot of great entrepreneurs and founders that figured out how to make money. And I call those treadmill entrepreneurs. They figured out that they can speed up the treadmill. They can figure out their zone of genius. They can make more money, but it's not making them wealthy. It's not really getting them what they wanted and what they signed up for when they gave up a paycheck and they put it all on the line.
Mhm.
There was a big gap there, and that's what we're able to solve for. And it is uncommon. It is different, but it is a lot of years. Like I said, it took me 25 years of experience to write the book, but really only about 18 months to put it on paper.
Yeah. Let's start digging into some of these concepts that you talk about in the book. And I know for me, it's always fun hearing you share because I learn something new every time I talk with you. And so I want to start here because I know that we have a lot of friends in common. We met in a mastermind group. And one of the questions that I hear a lot of people that came up is, why are there so many successful entrepreneurs on paper? people who are making 6, 7, 8 figures in their business, and they're not wealthy at all. Their personal bank accounts don't reflect the success of their business life. Talk to us about that, because I think that this is more common than people think. And the reason that we don't hear about this a lot is because the marketing claims say, oh, we did 7 figures this month, we did 8 figures this year. But nobody is talking about what's happening behind the scenes with their personal wealth. And rightfully so, you can keep that private, that's fine. But I think that there's a gap there. And it's more common than people think that people are crushing it on the outside and not crushing it when it actually matters. So walk us through, why is this the case and what can we do about it?
No, and that's, I would say revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is freedom.
Mm.
And you were never taught that. What you were taught when you started your business was that revenue is the metric that matters. Now, don't get me wrong, we all have to generate revenue or we're not going to have a business. We're not going to be in business. But that's the problem in and of itself, is we are not taught how to structure our finances in a coordinated way. So we have this, this Mona Lisas and Mad Hatters out there that are professing that revenue is the way to have a successful business. I was the same way, Jake. I did the same thing prior to March of 2009. And then it all come crumbling down. I said, wait a minute, I'm good at what I do. I'm managing hundreds of millions of dollars for clients, and I don't have a pot to piss in. Why is that? Because nobody is teaching us how to coordinate as entrepreneurs and founders the financial ecosystem. And part of that is because revenue is such a vanity metric. Step away from that. It doesn't matter how much you make, it's how much you keep. And if you're going to keep it, you have to learn to multiply it. And that talks specifically to the founder and how to take what we call the 3 flywheels and put them in motion. And the concept of a flywheel is very simple. A flywheel, as it spins and goes faster and faster, the flywheel gets expansive. It gets bigger and bigger. So when you can expand the flywheels, 3 of them consistently over time, you will build massive wealth. It's not good enough to have a 7 or 8 figure business. Like you said, you and I know many of those. And that's not good enough to me. It's not enough to make 7 figures, 8 figures, and have nothing to show for it. What's the purpose? It's like, why are we doing this? That's the concept that we were trying to solve for all along.
What when I hear you talk about this, right? And you say revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is king.
Yeah.
Talk about how us as entrepreneurs should be thinking about profit. How should we be thinking about cash? And maybe even give, like, what do we do first if we aren't sure if our shit's dialed in?
Well, the reason that we have to think about profit first, and that is a cottage industry in and of itself, and I believe wholeheartedly in the concept of profit first. Michael Michalowicz nailed it when he wrote his thesis. So we have to learn as entrepreneurs to extract wealth, extract the profit from our business and turn that into meaningful, lasting wealth. That's the key distinction. If you can't extract the money from the business is always going to own you, right? There always will be there'll be a new hire, there'll be a new marketing. Now the shiny dot is AI. There's always going to be something that will consume a founder's profit. If you can't extract it and put it into personal assets that you can manage, that you can control, and you can parlay into what we call, and what I talk about in the book, as work optional wealth, we can dive into that. I hate the term retirement planning. And every advisor that I know, our whole Wall Street industry, is preaching about retirement planning and a retirement fund. And I scratched my head every day and said, what is this retirement? And then, my story, we had 2 exits in 2021, my wife and I, Trish, and I was bored as hell. I was like, I'm not ready to retire. I hate fishing. I'm a subpar golfer. no pun intended. I want to work. And so work optional is really what I profess, not retirement. But again, we have an industry that's got it all wrong, in my
Yeah.
opinion, for entrepreneurs.
Okay, this is fascinating. One of the things that I struggled with very early on in my business was this concept of reinvest, reinvest, reinvest. Me as the founder, take the smallest possible amount off the table that you can and just reinvest everything. And that was kind of like what the entrepreneur world taught me when I got going in here. As
Hmm.
I've learned, though, some of that's very good advice, and some of it, though, defeats the purpose of why you're building a business in the first place, which is to provide the lifestyle that you want, to create the opportunity, right? And so I'm curious as to your thoughts on how do you encourage people, and it's case by case, but how do you encourage entrepreneurs to think about paying themselves? How much is too much? How little is too little? Are there any guidelines, or how do you want us thinking about this?
Yeah. So everybody needs to go get the book. I break it down into three specific types of entrepreneurs. There's the survival mode, the stability mode, and the significance mode. So you're exactly right, Jake. When we start our businesses, we're in survival mode. We chose to give up the paycheck every 2 weeks to put our energy into something. We agreed not to be paid a cent until we added value to somebody else in the exchange for money or currency. That's a very scary thing for about 96% of our populace. Only 4% of the United States population, men and women, are entrepreneurs. So we're not talking to the masses. We're talking to people that have a screw loose. That's the entrepreneur world we chose. So if you're in the survival mode as a business owner, entrepreneur, you better put everything back into it. I agree 100%. And make sure that the money you're reinvesting is actually spinning that flywheel faster. We call it the wealthy entrepreneur's flywheel. Make sure that your business is accelerating profit and you can get out of the survival stage and into the stability stage. A stability stage is where you want to ultimately think about extracting money for your lifestyle, right? If you want to enjoy a good life, by all means, that's why we're doing this. But don't do it at the sacrifice of the business until you get to stability. And then once you grow past or grow out of the stability phase, you get into significance. And significance is where the brush fire really takes off. And that's where you're pouring so much gasoline on the fire that you get to where you ultimately want to go, which to us, we call it true wealth. And true wealth is not just a number. True wealth is about fulfilling your purpose and your well-being and your relationships, and money is tied to all those. But everybody's wealth freedom number is different. You've got to determine that. That's what we call significance and work optional. So
Mm.
agree. Survival mode, yes, reinvest. Then the other thing I would say is just be careful who you're listening to. Listen to people who've walked the walk. I get
Hmm.
very frustrated when I talk to other financial advisors, and I've coached and mentored hundreds of advisors. I get very frustrated when I talk to CPAs. They're not entrepreneurs, most of them. I get frustrated when I talk or hear about fractional CFOs that focus on a very narrow lane or a silo of financial advice without the lens of why are we doing this? You're doing this so you and your new bride and your family can achieve the things in life that you want to achieve, and it's not just money.
Okay, let's go further. I'm loving this. The growth stage, because at some points of business too, you're going to want to be focused on growth and depending on the industry, but there might be a time where profit needs to shrink in order for you to grow, right? So oftentimes this shows itself in service-based businesses of you make a new hire, or if you're in an agency and you make a new hire, well, that new hire sucks some of the profit until their schedule gets filled up, until they're at capacity, and then it goes on. So when do you see it's good to focus on profit? And this is not we're not in the beginning stages, right? We're in a growing business. When do we focus on growth again, where profits might decrease, versus when do we want to optimize for profits? Or do you think always optimize for profits, even if you're in a growth phase?
Yeah, that's a great question because there are two distinct phases. You're right. There's a growth phase in every business, there's a profit phase in every business. And we, as the leaders of our business, have to regulate when and where we want to be in and out of those phases. So, if you're the other thing that I would encourage you to reshape your mind around is growth. Think of it as scale. Because I look at a growth, when a business is in growth mode, growth implies always revenue is going up, but so is OpEx, so is all the messy middle. And it doesn't have to be that way. A scaling business should shoot for revenue going up and OpEx or the messy middle staying flat. How do you do that? You do that with AI. You do that with better frameworks, better processes, better systems, smarter employees, trying to be lean, um, better at coaches, better masterminds, better professionals around you. I dare say that's why people hire us. They say, you know what? I don't need to have a bookkeeper, a CPA, a CFO, and a financial advisor, and all these not interconnected financial ecosystem components. I can consolidate them down, and in the end, I'm going to get that scale instead of that growth. So that's something that I really like to think about with my clients is don't think about growth, think about scale. But there is a time when we're all as business owners going to have that shot at extracting more profit depending on the season that we're in. And I talk about that in the book. I basically call that the wealth transfer protocol. The wealth transfer protocol will dictate in your specific situation, in your business, the methodology that's going to extract profit. For example, some people might be able to extract profit on a monthly basis. Some business owners might decide to do that on a quarterly basis. If Jake is in purely a scale mode, you might say, no, I'm not going to take a transfer extraction until mid-year. So maybe it's not even quarterly, but no going in. It's like my grandfather used to tell me when I went off to college. He said, son, he said, if you're going to get into a bar fight, have a second door to go out. You know how to get in the front door, but know where the back door is. So you got to go in with a plan. You got to go to know what did Mike Tyson said? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Same thing with how we're going to manage our finances. If you don't have a plan going in, and I call it the transfer protocol, it's not going to happen because there's going to be another shiny dot. There's going to be something else that's going to cry out for your money, attention. And then you're going to turn around a year, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. And you'd be like, my business was cranking. I had a successful business on the surface. And then I look at my brokerage statement and what do I have? A lot less than I should have.
I'm thinking of so many very specific questions, but I don't want to put you too much on the spot. So I'm going to go here. You've alluded to this a few times, and I want to really help the listeners understand how it all comes together. In the book, you reference financial fragmentation, right? Yeah. And the concept that every piece of your financial team is pretty much independent, right? So as entrepreneurs, you have a bookkeeper, you have a CPA, you might have a financial advisor, you have your attorney. And oftentimes, none of them communicate with each other. And you're often paying a lot for each of those pieces. And then you're still the one stuck figuring out how it should all be intertwined. And so how does the true wealth model, and how do you kind of think about these things in a way that can help entrepreneurs reduce some of their stress or angst around that, but still have the most clear picture possible for their business and their personal wealth?
Yeah, that was really absolutely the scenario I found myself in as a financial advisor, is there were all these well-intended people giving me their professional advice, but there wasn't anybody to coordinate it all. So who became the bottleneck? Me. I was the monkey in the middle because they were all well intending. They were all giving me their best advice, but they were all functioning in silos instead of working as a collective whole. So we created through True Wealth, we create what we call a chief wealth officer. The chief wealth officer is the person that sits with the CEO and founder and helps buffer them. You're going to need a bookkeeper. You damn well better have a CPA. But the CPA, the bookkeeper, the financial advisor, the CFO, if they're not communicating and talking together, how do you, as the leader of the business, know that you're spinning on all cylinders? Number one. And number two, you, with that fragmented advice, what you're doing is you're slowing down your path to wealth.
Mm,
And that's what our whole premise, that's what our whole messaging is really around. How do we create a coordinated financial ecosystem? And that creates the flywheels, all three of them spinning faster, generate more, keep more of it, and multiply it, get you faster to where you're trying to go.
mm. If somebody's listening right now and they're like, okay, Phil, this is intriguing me. I'm curious about this. I'm just a little overwhelmed at where to begin. And that's, to be honest, we've heard that a lot, right? We've heard that a lot is, okay, I know I'm not where I need to be. I know something's off, but I'm not sure what to do about it. What's the first thing that an entrepreneur should do to evaluate and audit themselves so that they have a better understanding of where they currently stand and where they can actually benefit from help?
Yeah, I think the first thing to address is fully admitting that you don't know what you don't know. I have met a lot of successful people in our circle of friends. There are a lot of successful people, and it only takes me one or two questions to really peel back the onion and discover that the financial lane is probably something they don't know as well as they think, or they maybe are intimidated by it, or they're not trusting.
Mm,
Those are intimidation, trust, and probably limited knowledge are the three biggies when it comes to money. So we created what we call the Chief Wealth Officer Diagnostic Assessment. So one of the things that we do for every client and potential client, it's in the phase one of our wealth ascension system. And it's the first phase is always the evaluation phase. So we created an assessment. It's 50 questions, no financial statement upload, no tax return needed. I don't need your Vanguard statement. You go in and you answer 50 questions honestly. And this will take you, it's not going to be a 10-minute deal. It's going to take you some time. But the if the founder entrepreneur goes through the 50 question assessment, we return back to them a complete diagnostic of where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, what's it costing them? Because that's the underlying issue. The fragmented advice is costing you money and you don't know it. And it's okay that you don't know it. You're not supposed to know it unless you've been acculturated in this financial space like I have for 30 years. But identifying where the leaks are, identify where the mistakes are, and then the assessment tells you exactly how to go about fixing them and what the potential revenue, profit, and wealth building lifts are. Because remember, they're three intertwined flywheels. So it's not good enough for us to assess revenue because revenue is vanity. If we can assess where the profit leaks are and mistakes, with tax is a big one, right? I was listening to a podcast recently and it was brilliant. They said, most people think the biggest expense we all have as high earners is taxes, and that's number two. The commentator said the biggest expense we all have is our own limited knowledge.
mm,
I was like, dang, that's really powerful. Because if we were talking to some of our, well, use you as an example. You guided me step by step through this whole process. It was not easy getting to the finish line of this book. but you met with me, you were patient with me, you coached me, and that made all the difference. And then when we had the launch, the beginning of last month, what happened? It was like you told me what to do. I followed your recipe, and then we landed bestseller. And I last I checked, it was on 4 different categories. I couldn't have done that on my own, but I had you to guide me through
Mhm.
it. So the biggest gap we all face is, or biggest expense is not knowing what we don't know.
Mm.
So the diagnostic assessment is our way of helping our clients get totally grounded and foundational on the areas that are going to make the fastest incremental improvement and help you get to where you want to go. So
Mm.
I think that's how I would answer that question.
And just out of curiosity, how do we do the diagnostic? How do we do the assessment?
I mean, I could give you the link. You can put it in the show notes down below
Awesome.
there. And it's that simple. You'll hit the landing page, you'll put in basic information to get yourself registered, and then you go at the 50 questions. It produces the result. One of the things that we do recommend, and actually I recommend's the wrong word, we require, you're going to have to get on the phone with me or Mike, my other chief wealth officer, Davis, so that we can explain it. It's not enough for us to send you a report. It's not that simple just to give you the PDF. It is very detailed. And
Yeah.
if the people want to take the assessment and they're willing to commit to the 60-minute, it's not a sales pitch. It's just to clarify what they've got in their hands
Yeah.
because it's that powerful. So we could do that.
It's so fun as you've built all of this stuff out. You've always led with truly trying to help people. Like it's so awesome to see because so many people in this space, we all want to help people, sure. We also all want to make money. But I can't tell you how many times from the start of you building this out, of you creating True Wealth, of you doing all this stuff, you've just always said, there's a better way for entrepreneurs and we're going to figure it out. And you spent so much time researching and so much time building. And, this book is just one of the ways people can access your knowledge and really understand how great it is. But I want to hear something. And again, if there's privilege, please keep it privileged. But when somebody works with a chief wealth officer within True Wealth with you guys, what is the average savings or what is the average amount that they're able to transfer or to change or to save in their time working with you? Because I think that this is something that a lot of people look at when they come to like the cost or the investment.
Yeah. Well, because financial advice comes at a price. And it's usually a very expensive price, especially if you're dealing with Wall Street. You and I have talked about that. You know my philosophy on investing. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole. That's maybe another day. Um, so what we did over the last in 2025 for a full 12 months, I took a composite of all of our clients. The clients had to be in the True Wealth CWO Premier for 12 months. And then I just categorized in 4 main areas how we did with the clients that retained us. So in the 12-month cohort for our clients, on average, we saw a 33% jump in revenue, a 29% lift in gross profit margin.
Mm.
Hold your hat. A 51% surge in net profit margin, and on average, $48,000 in tax savings year one. Now we're going into year two with some of these clients, some of which you know, some of which also live in California. Sorry, Californians, you live in a shitty state for tax. But we're on pace with some of our West Coast friends, upwards of 6 figures in tax savings now that we fully integrated the flywheel, what we call the tax reduction code. So we're very proud of the system we built. We're proud of the methodology. It's all backed by years. It's backed by my experience. It's backed by the things that I wish I had. I wish I had the wealth creation method book in my hands 20 years ago. I would not, I would be much wealthier than I already am, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly why you wrote this book. And that's exactly why we're talking about it today, right? And so, as we get ready to wrap up here, I want to make sure everybody grabs a copy of the Wealth Creation Method. Make sure you get your copy. And then, Phil, how do we connect as we get ready to wrap up here? How do we connect with you? How do we learn more about you? How do we work with you for anybody who's interested in taking the next step?
Yeah, so we're getting active in the social medias. So you can find us on Instagram at True Wealth Advisors, Facebook. My Facebook is Phil Calandra one. If you're a female entrepreneur and you want to get a perspective or a lens from a successful woman operator, it's Trish Calandra one. That's my co-founder, and of course, that's my wife. Um, but that would be one way through socials. We're going to put we'll put the diagnostic link in the show notes. The book, obviously, they can get that. And yeah, make ourselves available that way. TrueWealthAdvisors.com. Website's up and running. Um, we're really excited because you said something that hits me very hard, Jake, and that is I, I say this not to be flippant. Um, I made my financial fortune helping other people make their financial fortune. And Trish and I were blessed enough to exit two businesses simultaneously in 2021. And I just look back on that and think, well, we were blessed in a way that a lot of families may never be blessed. And the statistics, it should have gone against me for more than one reason. I should have never made it to the level of success that we made it, but we did. It was through grit, hard work, being stubborn, being persistent, being an Iron Man, all those things. But the statistics scare me. If 90% of small business founders are out of business in 5 years or less, what could I do? What could my knowledge, what could my little modicum of success do to help another man or woman achieve their most desirable
Hmm.
dreams? What is the Henry David Thoreau quote? It's on a plaque in our home here. Live the life you imagined. It's that simple. And there's too many founders failing. And why do they fail? It's not because of the shiny dot. I love our marketing friends. I love all of our chief marketing officers. I love our operations specialist. Love them all. But why are businesses failing? It's cash flow. The business model isn't profitable. Let's fix that. And if we can fix one, we could fix 100, we could fix 1,000. I'm not ready to retire. I'm work optional.
I
I'm
love
going to
it.
do that till as long as I can. And that's the truth.
I love it, Phil. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. And, we talked a lot about the financial side and the saving side and all of these things, all the flywheels, all the protocols. And I really want to encourage everyone to get the copy of the book because you can use this book not only to just get educated, but you can use it as a resource to go back and forth for different questions that you have at different stages of your life and of your business. And then, of course, you could take the diagnostic. You can work with Phil and his team. They're just top tier on everything. So, Phil, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for being here. And I always appreciate a good conversation with you.
You too, brother. It's good to be with you. Thank you for all you've done for me. I appreciate you.
Of course. There you have it, folks. Phil Calandra, best-selling author of The Wealth Creation Method. Make sure to go grab a copy, and we'll see you on the next one.